Nick Sirianni Live, presented by Premier Orthopedic.
Hey, Coach. Thanks for taking the time for us today. We're going to kick things off with Elliot and then go to Ed.
Hey Nick,
Hey, Elliot.
Jalen, AJ, and Saquon met this week. I was wondering your reaction to the three of them taking time to meet, and if I know it's only been a few days, but if you've noticed any outcome of that meeting, either in practice or in the facility.
Yeah, love the fact that we all get together and are looking for solutions to continue to get better. That's just not a coaching thing. That's just not a leaders on the football team. That's this team. That's the mindset of this team is how do we keep getting better, be playing our best football by the end of the year. And so you love that. You love that for, all the guys. And when I always say to the coaches, like, anything we're preaching, we better be living ourselves. And then you have the same thing with when the captains on your team and the leaders of your football team are doing that, and just focusing on how we get better and take the next steps. That trickles down to everybody. That's my theory with coaches. That's my theory with the leaders of your football team. So everyone just, this isn't all that different than last year going through these things as well. You buckle down, you find solutions, you find answers to the problems, and you work yourself to get better from that. That's what it's about. That's how you grow. That's a mental toughness thing. Obviously we're all going through that and trying to get better. And great, we get to play a game tomorrow. You don't have to sit with this loss that we had on Sunday for too long. We get to go out and play a game tomorrow, and we're really excited about that.
We'll go to Ed and then Jeff McLean.
Yeah, hi, Nick. Kevin talked about, how Monday the coaches were lucky if they got 2 to 3 hours of sleep. What's your approach to game planning on these short weeks? Do you streamline things a little, or do you keep it the same?
Yeah, Ed, I don't think that benefits me to talk about that, going into this game. I will say, to be able to slightly answer your question, every game, you've heard me talk about this before, every game that has unique circumstances, you have plans for, whether that's a Thursday night game off of a short week, whether that's off a bye week, whether that's the second time you play an opponent, a division opponent, or in the playoffs for that matter. Whether that's an international game, whether that's the first game of the year. The NFL gives you a lot of different schedules to play, because of the demand of the sport that we love so much. And so all of them have unique circumstances, and we follow, and through the years you develop plans through those circumstances and through these types of games, and you try to follow, and just because you have a process doesn't mean, like, after you go through that process, you don't say to yourself, hey, we could have done this a little bit better. We could have done that a little bit better. I really like this. And so that's kind of where you get to with your plans on some of these unique games.
Thank you.
We'll go to Jeff and then Dave.
Nick, why hasn't Jalen Hurts been more involved in the run game?
Different weeks call for different things. I think you saw last week that, there are some plays that we had that, were RPO types that could be runs. But the guy, I think I kind of answered this earlier in the week. I don't remember with who. But the guys were open in the flat. So we were able to take those. So again, how do you go out and try to win every single game? Sometimes that's going to be, with running the ball. Sometimes it's going to be with passing the ball. And sometimes it's going to be with Jalen running the ball on planned runs. We know he'll get opportunities on scrambles, but it's always in our thought process with him. Always as you asked me when, maybe he's run a lot. Like, are you worried? It's the other end of it, right? Are you worried that he's running too much? Well, we're always going to be safe with him as well, and think about that as well in moments where we are running them. So just because he hasn't had the planned carries doesn't mean they haven't actually been there for different circumstances. We've passed it. I guess to say too, there's some that he's handed off because we don't get the ability to run it on some of those. So it's hard to look at the stat and say he hasn't done this because it's still part of our offense and it's still part of what we do. It's just the numbers haven't been there for different circumstances throughout the first couple weeks.
We'll go to Dave and then Tim.
Hey, Nick, what has Brett Toth done to put himself in the position to be the next guy in at left guard this season?
Great consistency by him through his time here. Brett's been here this longer than I've been here, and is just a reliable guy that can do multiple things, and is good at multiple things. So he's consistent. He has ability to play multiple spots. We trust him, and he's done a good job when he's been able to go in time where we've needed him. Just very similar to Matt Pryor has done a good job, very similar to Fred Johnson. We've had this in the past with other guys, Jack Driscoll, you name it. We've had a lot of guys that have came in and been able to make plays and help us make plays, as backup roles. That's the reality of the NFL football. You got to have every guy ready to go, every guy ready to step in, because we know that there's injuries, there's bumps and bruises along the way. A lot of confidence in Brett Toth. Think he's extremely tough, mentally, physically, extremely high football IQ, of what he can see and diagnose. He's talented, and there's a reason he's been with the Philadelphia Eagles as long as he's been with the Philadelphia Eagles.
We'll go to Tim and then Martin.
Hey, Nick, there's been some conversation around the fact that after that shot play between Jalen and AJ that they didn't communicate on the sidelines afterwards. Is that something that you're looking for those two specifically to improve in game? Is their communication?
Obviously communication with all of us is so important to be able to talk, whether that's coaches to players, players to coaches, players to players. I would say, they do a good job talking, and figuring things out, whether that's in the building, whether that's in a game, quarterback with the wide receivers, quarterback with the tight ends with the wide receivers. And so, yeah, I think it's hard to look at one play in a game and say, oh, they didn't communicate after that. We are constantly in communication. We have meetings, wide receivers, quarterbacks together, or quarterbacks with offensive line and running backs together. There's constant communication amongst the team, amongst the coaches, to be playing to be continuing to move up and play better football each week. And that's a big part of it.
We have time for a couple more, so we'll go to Martin and finish with Brooks.
Hey, Nick. Obviously going against a quarterback who's only played a couple games, Jackson Dart. What have you seen from him, and what are kind of like the challenges of, going against a guy you really haven't seen much of at all?
Yeah, he's a playmaker. He has the ability to make plays, both with his legs and his arm. Watching his college tape, we all watched his college tape, went through our due diligence there. He had a lot of really good college tape as well, obviously, as him being drafted where he was drafted by the Giants. So a lot of respect for him and the player that he is, and that he, I know he'll keep getting better. A lot of respect for their coaches over there. I've worked with Brian Dable. I know how good of a football coach he is. It's taken the film that we have, whether that's, in college, whether that's in preseason, whether that's in the games that he's played, coming up with a plan for that, and being ready to adjust like any game. But I got a lot of respect for him and what he's done early in his career. And, to say I'm surprised, I wouldn't say that, because, I saw a good football player when I watched him coming out.
We'll finish with Brooks here.
Hey, Nick, last week AJ Brown was talking about how you have a routine of calling him on a Monday or videoing with him on a Monday. What's that relationship like? What do you get out of those meetings, and just kind of what's kind of your pursuit in that?
My relationship with all the players is very important to me. I think that, being in constant communication with them about, hey, the game, their life, the messaging for the week, that I'm leaning towards getting their perspective on it. And that's not, obviously, talk to AJ a lot, and I think that I do that with a lot of our players. Obviously, I'd love to be able to do it with all 70. Obviously, that's not always realistic, but, to be able to have those one-on-ones, but you try to do that through the midst of a couple weeks with all the guys, because I know that, you've heard me say this before, together is so important, right? Tough detail together is so important. It's as you look at these teams that play late into the season, and you name the sport, it's always, there's a common theme of like, man, we were just so close. We don't want to let each other down. Well, it starts, like I said earlier, if I'm not living up to that standard, how do I expect them to do it? I think the best leadership tool we have is our example, because they're always looking at you first in those scenarios. So if I want a close knit group of guys, then I better be working on those relationships as well. So whether it's AJ, whether it's Jalen, whether it's Devontae, whether it's Zach Bond, whether it's Reed Blankenship, Saquon, you name it, Jordan Mailata, all those guys, you're constantly working on that relationship. And, some guys, you talk to on Mondays, and some guys you talk to on Tuesdays, and you have a routine with it. And sometimes you hit a guy once every other couple weeks. And that changes too. There's going to be guys that are going through stuff in their personal life that you want to reach out to and have conversations with as well. So I wouldn't say that's unique to just AJ, but obviously that relationship with AJ is very important to me. But it is that way with all our players.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you.
Nick Sirianni Live, presented by Premier Orthopedic.